It's my birthday and I cry if I want to. I don't want to. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Melanie and January is my birthday month, so I'm very excited to show you guys my January monthly spread. If you don't know, I am into the stars. Astrology is my jam, so much so that I have entire playlists dedicated to the full moon and entire playlists dedicated to the new moon, all covering different archetypes of the zodiac signs. Because of this, I went with an astrological natal chart theme for my birthday month of January. It is wind down from Christmas time and holiday season, and we are moving right into 2022. I am as excited as ever to show you guys this spread, so let's head over to the desk and take a look. The first page I'm working on here is just a decorative page. December ended on the left-hand side page, and I didn't want to start the monthly calendar page on the right-hand side, so I had an area to fill up with a quote or some type of photo, and I decided to paint it all blue and start off the month of January with some galactic theme energy going on. For the month of January, I decided to use watercolor and silver gel pen, so I went through all of my spreads and roughly sketched them in with a pencil, and then I ended up deciding to watercolor all of the pages. So it's a little bit out of order. I'm not going to start with the calendar page and then work my way through the weekly spreads, just because pages dried at different speeds and I wanted to be able to be working on this while other pages were drying. So the order will be out of whack just a tad, but you'll see all of the spread completed nonetheless. If you guys saw my 2022 bullet journal setup, I used a lot of watercolor in my yearly spreads, and I am still happy as ever with how well this journal is holding up to the use of watercolor. I used washi tape on the inner seam of the book just to stop some bleeding. I'm not a very patient watercolorer, so I like to tape off the areas that I don't want to have any kind of residual splashback on so that I can go hard with the paintbrush and not have to take my time. The setup of this whole monthly spread was very easy because I used watercolor on such a large amount of the spread itself. I was not held up by having to get really detailed into doing some type of sketching or anything like that. So I like how full and complete the monthly spread looks without having to spend a lot of detail-oriented time. I have also discovered that napkins are the perfect size to separate my pages while they're drying so I can get more color on faster with a reduced wait time. You'll see on one of the Dutch doors that the actual pattern on the napkin transferred onto the watercolor on the page, and I kind of liked how it looks. It saves a lot of time to paint both sides of the Dutch door before you cut the Dutch door out. That way you don't have to worry about leaking any of your paint or your markers onto the other pages. This was learned through trial and error, but I'm happy I remembered to paint both sides before cutting out the Dutch door this time around. Once the watercolor was about 75% dry, I removed the washi tape. I patted the rest of the pages to about 90% dry. It didn't have to be perfect, I just wanted to make sure that there was no transferring occurring before I moved on to working with the gel pen and sketching in some of the actual layouts. I cut out the Dutch doors and then remembered that there was a page that I had not yet finished painting, so I had to go back and paint the actual calendar page, especially where there was a lot of transfer over from the other page's watercolor. This was where I utilized some of that forced creativity I often talk about, also known as problem solving. I removed the napkin too soon, and obviously the watercolor transferred to the other page, so I had to redesign the page I was going to use for my calendar spread, and I'm happy with how it turned out. On the white part of the page, I'm using my black tip fine liners and will be using my silver gel pen wherever the watercolor is. Because my calendar page was the last page I ended up painting, I'm starting on my tracker page for the month. I don't do a really big monthly tracker spread just because I often find tracking individual habits to be more stressful than motivating, so I'm usually very particular about the actual things I track. For January, I think I've decided to only track my morning routine, practicing some French, and a few other things. I don't have a long list of habits that I track. The other two boxes on this page are for my general monthly to-dos or notes, just things that I need to write down and keep track of. And then the other box is for my morning routine. I'm working on streamlining a morning routine that works well for me, so each month I am adapting and changing a morning routine and tracking how well I can execute it throughout the month. In the month of December, I'm going to say it was about a 50-50 success rate. I did enjoy the mornings that I did my morning routine, but there's holidays and events and other things that happened in December that interrupted that. I was also trying to figure out different ways and different time periods for fasting, and I haven't decided on the overall takes from December, so you're not going to actually see me fill in the morning routine here because I haven't decided what it's going to be or how I'm going to refine it for the month of January. Now that the trackers are complete, my calendar page has dried fully. I did the title in silver. Like I did for the month of December, I did a vertical calendar with a witchling and an earthling side. I like having these two categories so I can keep more mundane events on the right-hand column and more astrologically or pagan-esque inclined things on the left-hand side. So that includes lunar phases, when different astrological seasons begin, or for example, the solstices or sabbats that are occurring in that month. It's funny when I was filling this out because I forgot that I know the astrological wheel. I know the order of the signs, but I was so focused on getting the symbols right and aligning them properly that I took a while to fill it out because I was questioning what I was doing. But once I got into the flow of it, it went quite quickly. All of the constellations that you see on the outside of this wheel are in fact constellations, but they might not be a constellation of one of the zodiac signs. I felt the need to clarify that because these are not just the zodiac constellations, and the constellation I chose to put in the center of the circle would be the constellation of Capricorn because it is Capricorn season and I'm a Capricorn. Once the quote page or the art page cover page of January was complete, I went through and started doing some stars and different constellations on the calendar page as well as my tracker page. Now for the rolling weeklies, I took my silver gel pen and outlined all of the areas that I painted. I like having the border to delineate. It makes it feel neater and more finished because the edges on my watercolor were not very pretty. I alternate between creating actual constellations and using the glyphs of the zodiac wheel. I like the contrast and I like that they are both used in the same way but are completely different looking. The constellation I did on the left here was for Scorpio. All of the constellations that I did end up drawing out are relevant to my natal chart, so I have placements in Scorpio, and that's why I chose to do the Scorpio constellation. Same thing with Capricorn and the Aquarius constellation I included in other areas of the spread. I really like how shiny the silver gel pen is. It feels very fancy to me, and I like how it looks on the galaxy-styled watercolor paint. A big takeaway from last month's spread was that I wanted to have 1 week per page as opposed to squeezing in 2 weeks per page. My previous bullet journals were physically larger than this one, so I had a lot more room, and I'm having to adjust my spreads or the plans that I had for my spreads to fit into this smaller book. On the Dutch doors, I'm still going to be using, perfecting, and honing in how I use a rolling task list. It's where I write down the tasks that I have for the week, and then I will mark off the day that they are completed. These types of rolling task lists are for tasks that don't have to be completed by any specific date, but you would like to get them done that week. I liked this task list for the previous month. I am getting better at using it. I need to get a little bit more specific on the things that I include on my actual daily calendar portion versus what goes on the task list. But so far, I have enjoyed having that extra room for tasks that don't really have a specific day they need to be done by. Things like laundry or taking Ripley to town or making sure I edit a certain video by a specific day, all of those have found their way onto that type of rolling task list. Now for the actual layout of my weekly spread, it is very simple. I just have 4 vertical lines and then the entire page for 1 day at a time. I like this because I can have a bunch of room. I am excited to compare this month with having 1 week per page to last month to having 2 weeks per page. I did not feel like I had enough room to write down all the different tasks, big or small, that I was trying to complete, so hopefully in January I find adequate space provided. I kept it really open and light with just the silver gel pen and a few black accents. I use a black pen when I bullet journal, so the contrast between the silver and the black will tie into the rest of the theme once these spreads are actually completed. I'm quite proud of being able to keep my daily actual journaling fairly neat so far. That tends to wane as the year progresses, but so far so good. It's only the first month of the year, but that's fine. Like I mentioned, January is my birthday month, so I felt like going with the astrological theme was appropriate. I'm a huge fan of astrology. I find it very interesting and I spend a lot of time learning about it, so this theme is near and dear to my heart. I have often contemplated having an entire bullet journal with this type of theme, but that has yet to occur, so I will go with just the single January spread so far. The last finishing touch I did was outline the weekends on my vertical calendar. It helps just clump in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all of that without having to write that in. So I just mark out Saturdays and Sundays with 2 lines so that I can see the divide of the actual weeks. That's it for my January monthly spread. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I love these types of spreads because they're extremely easy. This did not take me a very long time. Watercolor covers a lot of space very fast, and it provides a lot of visual interest without having to get bogged down with minute details that slow my process down a lot. So using watercolor, taking up a lot of space, gives you a very interesting monthly spread without taking so much time. Let me know in the comments below what your guys' sign is. I'd like to hear from you if you're choosing to do a natal chart spread for January, or if you're simply a Capricorn and share some astrological goodness with me. I've talked often about liking warm color palettes way more than cool color palettes, but I make that exception when it comes to galaxies and stars in general. December is a very planning heavy month for me. I get all of my bullet journaling done in December. I start my new journal. I do my tarot spreads for the year, and I am very focused on intentions and goals. So I'm excited and happy that my January spread is settling into the theme of 2022 and is not so centered on achieving and goal lists and checklists and all that stuff. On that note, in January, my content here on YouTube is going to shift a little bit away from so much journaling and a little bit more into things like lotions and potions and getting back to projects here on the homestead. So if you are not someone who follows me for my journaling content, thank you for bearing with me through the planning heavy month of December. I am excited to share with you all of the other goodness we have going on here in January and the months to come. As always, live long and prosper, and I will see you all back here very shortly with another video. Bye!